Of course, your majesty, Lord Haldax replied, shuffling through sheets of paper before bringing one up. The battle for Bismarck Keep was fought over 2 engagements, an aerial intercept to assist the free trader Volson Hanori and the dragon Archon, who had been attacked while en route, followed by a second battle to defend the keep against a renewed enemy assault. During the first engagement, the enemy was routed into the night, leading to no casualties on behalf of the keep, though the trader's escort suffered heavy casualties. The second engagement was initiated with a confirmed traitor, Dashu Flaxon, unbarred the entrance door, letting the enemy inside unchallenged. Sapphire did notice weight being placed on the confirmed part of that. Darkling forces then proceeded to invade the keep, taking hostages. Due to the heroic actions of Lady Bismarck alongside her daughter, Dakota, the enemy was denied the ability to withdraw from the keep. The enemy forces were then destroyed utterly by a vicious counter-assault led by the warrior Tom. The speaker sounded slightly confused at that last part, and appeared to go over it again before continuing. The report stated that Bismarck Keep suffered only one casualty, that being the young child Anastasia, who was killed as a hostage. The speaker gave a respectful pause before continuing. The enemy forces present numbered at least 25 Darklings commanded by a Dark Knight, 15 of which, including the Dark Knight, fell to Tom's hand over the course of the 2 battles. Well, that certainly got the council riled up. Sapphire couldn't even hear what was being said down by the proper seats, as most of the frontier people were busy questioning what Tom was, or giving their condolences on the loss of Anastasia. Others begging them that something so dangerous should not be let inside the walls. The speaker tried in vain to restore order for nearly a minute before the king got to his feet. "Silence!" the booming voice echoing throughout the room. That order was obeyed by all. "Speaker, you have a report on this individual, do you not?" "Yes, your majesty." "Let's hear it," the king stated, returning to his seat. The speaker rattled through some more papers before producing a document. "Report on a warrior known as Tom, full name Thomas Hansen, by Colonel Victoria Harshaw of the Royal Guard. Visually, Tom is soft-skinned and pale of colour, though he sports brown hair of considerable length on his head and face. His face appears squashed in with teeth much like those of a deer. He walks on 2 legs, has 2 arms much like our own, but is lacking wings of any kind. He is thus flightless." That did lead to some surprised expressions around the council. "Tom claims to have arrived from the far-off northern country by means of teleportation, likely the result of an accident. Though such magics are rare in the extreme, I do personally believe his statement. Tom is a former warrior of a far northern country known as Denmark. No records of this place are known. It is believed, due to Tom's exceptional resistance to cold, that this nation may well lie beyond where we are capable of safely travelling, hence the lack of information. Tom also possesses incredible physical endurance, allowing him to work or fight for extended periods without tiring. Tom is an exceptionally talented fire mage, who employs concentrated blasts of fire to pierce enemy armour with seemingly little effort. These attacks have proven effective against even lish-plate armour. He has sworn multiple oaths of loyalty to Lady Bismarck, foregoing his previous master, Lord Joachim. When questioned, Tom stated that he could not return even if he wanted to, and as such believes himself released from his former oath. Tom's warrior prowess is surpassed only by his compassion. It is clear to me that he does not wish for conflict, and in fact despises it. As such, I do not believe he poses a threat to our kingdom or its peoples. He seemingly only fights to defend what he has come to treasure, mainly the people, and especially children of Bismarck Keep, to whom he has quickly grown attached and is treating as family. Recommendation, leave to his own devices, if necessary handle with utmost care, as a friend." "Teeth like a deer. That's a little rough, isn't it?" Balathon questioned, not receiving a reply. Sapphire was busy gauging the response of the council. They were certainly rather quiet following that. It was clear to Sapphire that the majority of them had not heard of Tom before today, at least not in detail. There were a lot of confused faces looking around, and especially up at her. Dakota got the feeling she was going to be answering a lot of questions in the near future. Right on cue, a tall woman wearing robes with what Sapphire recognized as the sigil of the Arcane Academy raised her hand very politely. "Lady Ashani, you have the word," the speaker politely went, gesturing towards her. "I wish to address Dakota Bismarck, if that would be possible." Sapphire looked at Dakota, who was still deep in trance, likely conversing with Nanook. "Oh, fuck me," she thought to herself before standing up. "Dakota is currently still conversing with our keep. Perhaps I can answer your questions. To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?" "Sapphire Rayland, Silvered Huntress of Bismarck Keep, ma'am. I spent a fair amount of time with Tom on account of previous injuries. Very good. Tell me, Sapphire, has Tom ever shown signs of either corruption or magics outside his usual purview of fire? No, ma'am, the opposite, in fact. He and I encountered the unicorn Celestine not too long ago. Not even she could find fault with him. That led to some surprised faces around the crowd, much to Sapphire's delight. She doubted many of them could claim that, dwelling in a big city like this. He also seems unable to perform magic rituals of any kind, nor even understand them fully. That did seem to stump the lady for a bit, clearly pondering how to continue. What outward aggression? Has he perhaps attacked you, or snarled at you showing his teeth, things like that? Not against anyone who didn't well deserve it, ma'am. In fact, he routinely watches over the children. You have some strange beast watch your kids? A voice sounded from somewhere in the crowd. Lady Ishani just flatly ignored the interruption. Reassuring news. I would request you visit the Academy to discuss further. I would like more details of him to be placed on record. I do also have more questions. Those may wait for your visit. I trust the earring in your possession could be used for a chat? Its use is draining, and I do not know if it works on Tom. We'll be happy to oblige you, though, Sapphire replied, bowing respectfully. She was fairly sure rejecting that offer was not a possibility anyway. I would like the results of your labour as well, Lady Ishani. The king went, as soon as Sapphire had finished. Certainly, your majesty. Back to you, speaker, Ishani replied, sitting down. Sapphire sat back down as well, with a strained sigh. She really hoped she hadn't just agreed to something stupid. There was quite a lot of murmuring going on, though no one appeared to want to share their thoughts with the chamber as a whole. Thank you, Lady Ishani. The next point of proceedings are the skirmishes conducted by several of our frontier keeps, of which 3 are represented here today. I request that you interrupt me should any of the information be inapplicable to your encounters, the speaker went, holding up a fresh piece of paper to read of Forces numbering between 5 to 10 Darklings, spotted observing keep at distance for a period of 1 to 2 weeks. Enemy forces refused to engage and instead fled when challenged, only to return, continuing observation even if casualties were inflicted. 1 keep reports attempting to lure the enemy out using an unarmed guard as a decoy to no effect. The speaker looked up expectantly at where they were all sitting, yet no one spoke up. General Jashu, you have the word. Thank you, Speaker, the General went, getting up. Lords and ladies of the Council, it is clear our keeps are being scouted by the enemy, and whatever they are looking for, they found it at least twice. As you are all well aware, the Guard has thus far been unable to catch any of these Darkling raids. This is in spite of sightings of said raiding parties coming in more frequently than ever. As of yet, we have been unable to determine the means by which they are avoiding us, yet they clearly are. To attempt to combat this situation, it has been decided that Royal Guard deployment orders are no longer subject to review, fearing information has been leaked to the enemy. That sparked a considerable amount of outrage, as people got up to start protesting. Are you claiming there are traitors among us? How dare you make such an insinuation? But how will we know where it's safe to travel? Were cried out in protest, amongst many other demands and protests from the council. The king remained seated, watching with what Sapphire would best describe as contempt for what was before him. Order! Order! The speaker cried out, eventually getting the people to quiet down. General, you may continue. Thank you, Haldax. This is by royal decree, and thus not up for debate. Furthermore, by my order, the capital's defences are to be reduced by 3 squadrons, who will instead be moved to patrol duty of the middle and outer keeps. 1 squadron will also be taken from Bartelion, and 1 from Cartagena for the same purpose. They are stripping the cities? Dakota questioned, seemingly to herself. Sapphire hadn't even noticed she had finished sending the message. Is that bad? Sapphire asked. It sounded bad, but surely it was good for the keeps. I don't know. If they aren't expecting the city to come under attack, then I guess not. Might be a risk, though. I thought the king was supposed to be paranoid. Balathon got out before Dakota managed to snap his mouth shut. Sapphire didn't comment. She agreed with him, though. She had heard those rumours, too, during her time in the city. The notion of having their defences stripped also resulted in a period of noise before the speaker managed to get the crowd back in line, with the assistance of the general trying to assure them that they were all perfectly safe. The speaker finally regained order and gestured for the general to continue. On the matter of Bismarck Keep, based on the report you have heard, we've been unable to determine whether they were an isolated incident or not. 2 distinct enemy units appear to have been involved, one being led by a Dark Knight. It is unknown at this time if one of these units was indeed a scouting party, though their numbers seem too high to suggest this. Based on the testimony of the free trader Archon and his partner Volson Hanori, we believe they were the original target for at least one of these parties, specifically the dark artifact unknowingly in his possession. To ensure the survival of Bismarck Keep should the enemy return, a single young dragon with a minimal crew has been deployed to the keep to ward off further attacks. Once again, the noise began, as protests were made and defended against. No one seemed to agree on whether their keep had been the first target of the attacks that were currently plaguing the keeps, whether this was an entirely isolated incident. There were accusations of exaggerated numbers as well as just making this all up to secure a dragon for their keep. That did make Sapphire's blood boil. They had lost a child and very nearly much more. These people were more content with whether Jarrex was better spent guarding their sorry asses here in the safest place she could imagine, not to mention accusing her and the others of lying to the king and the royal guard. There were some supporters in the crowd though, much to her relief. A few were even calling for medals to be awarded for their actions, and the king had made his position very clear already, so she could hardly feel downtrodden right now. God, that hurts. Tom knew that if Jackalope was complaining, then it was likely rather bad. He almost considered giving her a painkiller from the little medic bag he had picked for trips like this. Her system had already been through a lot though, so he guessed that wasn't smart. Can you fly? Zarko just questioned, going over the lashing holding the Tyrox in place. Sure, I'm sorry, but... She looked at Tom with the most genuinely sorry expression he had yet seen on her. She looked rather miserable, in fact. No worries, you aren't my personal jet after all. Jet? Oh, no, I guess not. You want him? Fengi questioned, looking at Zarko. Sure, but if he tells me he loves me, I'll hurl him at the ground like an exile. A what? Tom had to ask. That was a new one. A metal ball you throw that goes boom. Honestly, I thought you were supposed to be good at that kind of thing. Zarko replied, sounding distinctly unimpressed. Oh, a grenade. Yeah, we have those. I should make some, actually. Predictably, that made Jackalope perk up, ears going skywards from their previous slack position. That sounds like an excellent idea, Fengi went with a pained smile, looking at Jackalope. With some complaining from Jarrex, they eventually all got airborne, forming up in a wedge behind the dragon for the last leg home. It shouldn't be more than 20 minutes. There was 20 rather awkward minutes, as he now laid on Zarko's back. There wasn't anything wrong with her. She just wasn't what you would call a conversationalist. Eventually, the science became too much for him, though. Did Redexy tell you about the degrees yet? Yep, seems like a lot of numbers to keep track of. Tom waited a bit, expecting a bit more than that, but he didn't get it. It's very good for fine course corrections, though. I'm sure it is. I prefer just going where I need to go. But how would you tell Jarrex? What would that be? 1/50th left or something? I use my feet. Push with right foot, we go right. Push with left foot, we go left. Nice and simple. Huh. Tom hadn't even thought of that option. Following that, the silence had reigned once more, as they made for home. Jackalope was flying right behind Jarrex. She looked almost like she was limping through the sky. Seeing her like this did give him a twinge of guilt. Thinking back to what Fengi had said, Tom really hoped she didn't feel like she had failed to impress him. She certainly didn't deserve that on top of the pain and losing. He would need to make sure that was the case. As they came into land, though, they were greeted by Rachuk, who was looking rather impatient.